Hey there, Internet. Michael Bisok here. It's the 20th of December 2017, and we're going to talk about taxes. Today, the House passed a bill that is the largest tax overhaul since 1986. First, I want to talk about the key points of that bill, and then I want to address how it's being talked about by progressives, communists. And finally, we'll talk about the problem I have in general with taxes. So here are the key points. The corporate tax rate has been lowered from 35% to 21%. Also, the standard deduction has been doubled from $6,350 to $12,000 for individuals, and from $12,700 to $24,000 for married couples. It doubles the child tax credit and increases the refundable portion of it. It also raises the exemption for estate and gift taxes from $5 to $10 million. But according to this Facebook post, it's bad. It's really bad. But here's the truth. Right? It lowers the percentage individuals and married couples pay by about 2 to 4% and expands the tax brackets upwards. For instance, married couples making $155,000 before would pay 28%. That's $43,400. In 2018, that same couple would pay 22%, or $34,100. That's almost $10,000 that couple can put into savings, investment, or paying off debt. A married couple making only $76,000 would go from paying 25% to 12%, saving them over $10,000. A single person making $38,000 used to pay 25% and now also pays 12%, saving them almost $5,000. Well, what about the average person? Okay, the Bureau of Labor Statistics says that in 2017, the average full-time employee earned about $31,099. Before the passage of the bill, the average person would be paying 15%, it's $4,645 roughly. Starting in 2018, that same average person would pay 12%, and that's about $3,700. A savings of about $900 for the average person. But keep in mind, that's not taking into account the standard deduction. So the standard deduction for the single average person has just doubled, and the amount of taxable income has decreased by about $6,000. Well, what about a wealthy person? Okay, let's look at a wealthy couple making $500,000 a year. They used to pay 39.6% of their money toward taxes, and now they would only pay 37%. That's less than a 3% decrease, like we saw with the average person. Of course, the raw numbers obviously look better to the simple, because you have $198,000 used to go toward taxes, now only $185,000. That's a savings of not $900, but rather $13,000. So yeah, the rich are getting richer if you're dumb and bad at math. Even if you are bad at math, though, you can appreciate this last key point. The tax bill repeals the unconstitutional federal fine imposed on Americans for not obtaining health insurance. That all sounds spectacular, right? So what are the complaints? Okay, first we have the LA Times editorial board in an article written yesterday said that the problems with the bill are legion. Legion. Does the LA Times regularly exercise hyperbole? They said that the measure will add more than $1 trillion to the federal debt over the coming decade. Now, let's get out our 1984 Newspeak translator and figure out how a tax cut can add to a federal debt. Oh, here it is. They mean that the government will keep spending money they don't have to do things it's not supposed to do. The editorial board of the New York Times said on Saturday that most Americans know that a Republican tax bill will widen economic inequality by lavishing breaks on corporations and the wealthy, while taking benefits away from the poor and the middle class. Okay, lots of newspeak here. Let's start with most Americans. What they mean is that they have no proof or poll or study, no reputable source from which they can quote, so instead they'll use the code most Americans, so that you, the reader, will feel like you should agree with whatever statement follows. Next, we have this phrase, widen economic inequality. This one's interesting. You see, if it weren't for the previous administration's attempts to redistribute wealth from those who'd earned it to those who didn't, then a less complicated, lower tax code wouldn't widen economic inequality. Let me put it to you this way. Let's say you're playing one-on-one basketball, and I make up a new rule that says that your shots are worth 1 point for every inch shorter you are than your opponent. It sounds ridiculous, right? But follow me here. So a 2-pointer, if you're 2 inches shorter, would be worth 4 points. 1 2-point shot, if you're 2 inches shorter than your opponent, would be worth 4 points, not 2. So let's say a 78-inch tall player is playing a 68-inch tall player. That's 10 inches of difference. So the 78-inch tall player makes 5 2-pointers, and we give him 10 points. That's normal, right? While the 68-inch tall player makes 2 2-pointers. 2 times 2 times 10, 40 points. Seems ridiculous, right? You've advantaged the disadvantaged so that you have less disparity between the points each person comes out of the game with. So if someone else comes along and they change the rules so that, a shot by anyone is worth the same as a shot by anybody else, like the game's real rules, I would have to argue that such a change will widen the point inequality. See how that's a dishonest argument? A flat tax would not widen or shrink economic inequality. The only way to use the tax code to shrink economic inequality is to unfairly distribute tax brackets so that the more you make, the higher of a percentage you pay. That's just a method for creating communism. If you do it right, everyone ends up with the same amount. I don't see how anybody would want that. I want to work harder and make more so I can pay more and have the same amount. All right, let's move on. The next part of their statement was that the tax bill would lavish brakes on corporations and the wealthy while taking benefits away from the poor and the middle class. They don't explain that statement anywhere in their article, but rather just hope that you'll take their word for it. But here's the thing. Those so poor that they don't pay any taxes will not benefit from a tax cut. Does that make sense? Everybody tracks that, right? If you don't pay taxes, and then I say everyone who pays taxes will pay less taxes, then you're not going to notice a difference. So the phrasing of this complaint is itself intellectually dishonest. Finally, the idea that the poor and middle class will have benefits taken away is based on the idea that the federal government, in order to finance the loss of income, would lessen entitlements, such as Medicare and welfare. And to that I say, good. You see, this brings me to my final point about income taxes generally. Ask yourself, how much is the federal budget? And how much is the federal debt? I would be okay if the two were equal, or even if the debt were slightly higher than the budget, so long as it was secured by bonds or other mechanisms for paying it off. But no, the federal budget is almost $4 trillion, and the debt is almost 5 times that much. We stopped using tariffs for federal income at the same time that we started collecting taxes on personal income. Now people treat personal income tax as the price one must pay to live in a civilized society. I find that hard to believe, given that we didn't collect personal income tax at a federal level until 1913. We had done just fine up to that. That's for another video, though. Here's the more important part of the argument. If this tax bill reduces federal incomes by $1.4 trillion, then the federal government should provide $1.4 trillion less in services. It should start by eliminating things that the federal government should not be doing anyway, like regulating education, providing health insurance, bailing out banks and automakers. I'm no genius, so I don't have this all-powerful economic plan to fix everything, but I'm at least not incapable of simple math, like this Facebook poster was. You see here the problem? 40 million retirees, give us each $1 million, and then we'll quit our jobs, opening up 40 million jobs, and buy 40 million cars, and pay off 40 million houses. 40 million times $1 million each is $40 trillion. How do you not get that? This guy and the people who repost it are just really bad at math. But the people who wrote and voted on this tax plan are not. Nor are they politically idiotic. I think this is just hilarious. That they made sure that the tax cuts on most voters will expire 2 years after President Trump will leave office. This virtually ensures that all these people that will certainly benefit from this tax plan will find it is in their best interest to elect someone that isn't part of the Communist, Socialist, Democratic Party so that they can continue to not get raped on April 15th. So obviously, I'm for the tax plan. I think it's freaking fantastic. And the closer we get to not having income tax taken at the federal level, the better off we are anyway. So this is a small step toward my ultimate goals, sure, but it's a good step. Well, I want to know what you think. Do you think this is a good idea? Do you think it's going to destroy us all, that we're all going to die, that the U.S. government is going to collapse, or that we're heading toward like a Mad Max situation? Let me know in the comments below. With that, if you like this video, please click like, and don't forget to share it. Remember, if you don't share, the terrorists win. If you want to see more of this content, go ahead and click that subscribe button. It's been fun for now. Be safe, and I hope to see you again soon.